Hi, everyone. Welcome to prep-in session for technical phone screening. I'm Amrita. I'll be walking through the agenda for today for our meeting, and I'll be talking about different things that we need to keep in mind for our telephone phone screen, technical phone screen, and also what are the things that a candidate is evaluated based on. Let me begin by talking a little bit about myself. I'm Amrita. I'm a backend engineer at LinkedIn. I've been here for about 3 years now, and I work in Talent Insights, LinkedIn Talent Insights team. And what my team works on is basically providing helpful and meaningful insights to our customers, be it individual customers or at an enterprise level. For example, a candidate who's looking through LinkedIn jobs can see useful insights regarding the number of applicants or sometimes about the salary information and also about providing different insights to the companies for the recruiting team so that they can tap talent the right way and they can look for the right skills in the right places so that they're able to recruit faster. Not only get to work on the back end REST services, I also get to work on the fun big data stuff as well. So without further ado, uh, that was about me. Um, let's uh, let's talk about the technical phone screening. What typically happens in a technical phone screening round. So a candidate would be typically given about two coding questions. Um, and they are evaluated based on um, the, the 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 fundamentals of computer science and also their knowledge on data structures and how they're approaching a problem, how they're writing the code, on their coding skills, on their analytical skills, on their also another major factor that we look into is communication skills, because since you'll be working in a team, typically we want to make sure that you're able to function in a team. But since this is just the first technical phone screening round, definitely the more emphasis is on the coding problems and how you're solving the problems and how you're approaching the solutions. So definitely having a good understanding of the different data structures that are out there, what are the pros and cons of each and when to use which one, depending on the question, depending on the scenario, trying to make sure that the runtime is as minimal as possible, trying to make sure that we are not exceeding space, we are not having too much space complexity, definitely having a good understanding of these things will help the candidate succeed in the TPS round. We don't normally have you'll be writing the code in CoderPad, and we normally don't run the program. So definitely having being able to do the dry run when you've written the code will be helpful for the interviewer to evaluate and also show that yes, that your code is working and that it will work, and also if there are any edge cases that you missed, highlighting those during your session is important. um, Definitely when you're given the question, instead of jumping right away into the coding pieces, into the coding the program, try to think of the try to look at the problem in a more bigger picture way, and try to see if you can if all the questions, all the assumptions are being answered. Uh, that is if you need to handle null, if you need to handle empty cases, if there are any corner cases that are not talked about in the problem, it's good to bring those up and clarify all the questions that you might have regarding the question, regarding the input of the question, regarding the expected output of the question. It's great to clarify those and highlight those during the interview before you start coding. Once you have clarified all the assumptions, uh, definitely try to definitely try to bring up if there are, if you have a working solution in mind, definitely bring that up. Even if it is not super optimal, definitely having a working solution is super important. So discuss the solution that you have in mind before you start coding with the interviewer. And if the interviewer is great, if it's okay with it, then definitely proceed towards coding. Coding you can do in any language. So feel free to pick up the language of your choice, and then we can start. Then you can start coding once you have the green signal from the interviewer. So yeah, evaluation criteria, as I was talking about, that we will be that the candidate will be evaluated based on the knowledge of data structures and the fundamentals of computer science, and also how you're trying to calculate the runtime, the space complexity. Um, Also, you won't be and also to mention that this will be in Coderpad, so you won't have the normal help that we have with IDE or online access. So definitely having good understanding of algorithmic logic is important for your interview. Think also algorithmic hints would be like, as I was mentioning, that definitely try to come up with a working solution. Also, when you're brainstorming for the solution, try to think loudly, try to explain your thought process, because what the interviewer wants to understand, other than just your coding, is also that how you're trying to approach the problem, which is very critical during an interview for the interviewer to understand. So absolutely, very importantly, think loudly and explain your thought process, how you're trying to approach a problem. Because sometimes if you're trying to think of a solution in a certain direction, and let's say if you're going off track, or if you're deviating from the problem, or if you're thinking something incorrectly, the interviewer can guide you and bring you back, and try to bring you back on track by giving you hints. So definitely look out for the hints that the interviewer is giving. Try to understand the signals that the interviewer is giving, because he or she is there to guide you through the problem. So definitely think out loudly and talk as you're trying to brainstorm the solution. That is very important for the interviewer to understand what kind of logic you're trying to come up with. Secondly, when you're writing the code, definitely try to talk loudly when you're trying to write the code, as in like if you're initiating a variable, instantiating a variable, if you're writing a while loop, if you're writing a for, what is that loop happening, what is it trying to do. Definitely try to explain when you're writing the code. This way the interviewer is also on the same page, rather than him or her reading through the code and trying to understand what you're trying to do there. Definitely try to write cleaner code, modular code, um, and make sure that you're trying to have meaningful variable names, but also be mindful of the time. Do not spend too much on making the code prettier if your main logic of the code is not out there yet and you're running out of time. So definitely be mindful of the time, because it would be typically of a 1 hour interview, and you would have around 2 questions. So definitely try to talk loudly when you're trying to write the code. This way the interviewer can also guide you or help you if something is incorrect or something is missing. This helps. And another thing that is, when you're trying to talk out loudly and explaining it to someone, you try to catch edge cases or corner cases quickly. Then when you're trying to write it by just repeating it in your head. So definitely that is another plus point of talking loudly, that you'll be able to catch the corner cases sooner. All right. So also, as I was mentioning, that definitely we want to write cleaner code, modular code. Uh, Definitely do not try to over engineer the solution. Don't try to overcomplicate the solution. As long as the code is very easy to read, it's easier for the interviewer to evaluate you in a better way as well. Definitely don't have like too many nested if else conditions, and yeah, basically just try to keep the code clean as possible and modular as possible. it will definitely highlight that you are using the Java or whichever language you are using. You're using the best coding practices, and it's always a good thing to highlight that during an interview. So next, since we talked about a couple of tips and tricks, and also how the candidate would be evaluated, let's see if we can try to do a dummy coding round and see how to implement those.
So let's get started on the question that we're going to be solving together for the example. So let's say during the interview, I've been given a question that I have to search an element in a sorted array. So what are the things at this point that is given to me in the question? I know that it is a sorted array and that I have to search an element. So based on the tips and tricks that we were looking into, so firstly, I would like to I would try to I would try to get all the clarifications done with the interviewer. Let's say my question is that I'm also gonna note them down on the coder pad. So let's say my question is that whether this is an int array, and if there are going to be negative values, which is also possible considering this is an integer array. So I'm gonna try to get these questions clarified with the interviewer, and let's say that yes, it's an int array, and yes, there is a possibility for negative numbers. I can also ask another question that I can ask is, can the input be empty, empty or null? Do I need to handle those cases? Can it have only one element? Things like that. So whatever doubts or edge cases that you can think of just by looking at the question, try to clarify them with the interviewer, and also it would be a good practice to write them down so that both of you are on the same page. So let's say that yes, we do need to handle this one, and let's assume that no, it would have, we know for sure that there would be more than one element. What do we do if element not found? This is a possibility, right? So what do we do? The question doesn't clarify what should we be doing at this point. So if element not found, we can ask that can we return -1. And that would be it could be easy if the interviewer wants you to return something else, he or she can point that out. So yeah, once we have the questions initially sorted out, once we have the details laid out, we can get we can start focusing on the brainstorming of the solution. Another thing that I noticed that the question doesn't have the API defined. So I would also maybe bring up that, hey, is this something that we're looking at, that we return, let's say that this is the API, it takes the array and also then the number or the element that we are trying to search in the array. So those are the two parameters, and it returns, its return type is integer. That means maybe we can return the index of the value if we find it. So we can confirm this if this looks okay with the interviewer, and then we can proceed in brainstorming. So let's say the so the question is searching an element in a sorted array. We know that it is sorted, but one possible solution or a brute force solution would be that we do a linear search and try to find, like we look at each index and until we hit the target, until we find the target. So that would be one possible solution, which would have the runtime of O of n. So maybe at this point, the interviewer might be looking for a better solution and would ask you or ask me to come up with a better solution, or if we can improve on the runtime here. So considering that it's a sorted array, another thing that we can do is binary search, as I had given the name of the method. So we can try binary search. So I would explain briefly what I'm trying to do. That is, we look at the middle element of the array and we compare it with target. If we find the target, if the middle element is the target, that's great. We return the index of that that is the middle element. If not, let's say the target value is less than the middle element, so we would go to the left. We would then look for the element in the left side. Since it's sorted, we can do this way, so we can divide and conquer. If it is higher than the middle element, the target value, we would move onto the right side of the, we would look into the right half of the array and try to search for the element again the similar way. At this point, the interviewer is like, yes, that's great, and we can get started to coding. One more thing I would like to highlight is that when we are coding, it's great to talk out loudly what we are writing. So since I gave a brief explanation of the logic that I'm trying to do, so I would proceed with that, and I'll also explain what I'm writing as I'm writing. So let's say I'm defining variables low, which is the low or the start index of the array. So in this case, it is 0. So we know that the index will always, in the beginning at least, the starting index of the array is 0. Let's say I define another variable, which is the last index of the array. So it would be length of the array minus 1. Now what I would do is I have to iteratively try to calculate the middle and compare with target, and then decide whether I want to analyze the left side of the array or the right side of the array. So since so that means let's create a loop for that. So the loop will run until as long as low is less than or equal to high. As long as the minute that switches, we should come out of the loop. So that would be our breaking condition here. What I would check is, what I would do is that first we need the middle element to be calculated. So our middle element will be, what we would do is we would calculate the middle element here. And now first thing that we would check is whether the middle element is equal to target. So if this middle element is equal to target, that means we found the index that we're looking for. So at this point, we would just return mid. Sorry, not min, it would be mid. Else if, let's say the target is less than mid value, right? So at this point, I would move to left side of the array. So when I move left side of the array, the low still remains the starting as it is, but the high becomes mid minus 1. Else, if neither of these two cases satisfy, I would just move to the right side. That would mean low would be mid plus 1. So this is sort of our while loop. If we find the element, it would get satisfied over here. Let's say we are out of the while loop and we don't have a mid element. I mean, if you're out of the while loop, that means we did not find the middle element. We did not find the target element in the array. So at this point, as per our discussion, as per the clarification that I made with the interviewer, I would return minus 1. And in the end, I would also try to do a dry run with an example, and also mention the runtime. And also, if the interviewer is satisfied with the answer, he or she will move on from this one. Or if there are any follow-up questions, they would probably, at this point, they would ask you to resolve if there are any follow-up questions for you. So yeah, this is how we would try to utilize all the tips and tricks that we learned into solving a sample coding question during the screening round.
So FAQs for a telephonic round. So one common question that we have is, will we need to compile and run the code? We won't. We don't have to compile and run the code. We will be using CoderPad, but we will not be running it. Definitely, and that's why doing a dry run with an example is helpful to the interviewer here. That way they will be understanding that yes, your code will be running fine with an example. Another common question that we have is, will there be any system design questions asked? Since this is a technical phone question, this will be just the two coding questions. We will not have any system design questions for a TPS round. So we'll be very much, since it will be just like 1 hour, so we'll be focusing only on two coding questions, and most of the time it eats up the whole hour. So we won't have any system design questions. Another question is, how many coding problems do we need to solve? So I think I mentioned that we'll have two coding questions, um, and that's what we'll try to solve in the 1 hour. Typically, we have like a warm-up question and another question, but yeah, generally we have like two questions. Cool. So thank you everyone for listening, for joining to this session and listening to this video. Hopefully this video is helpful, and hopefully you're able to do great in your telephonic phone screen round, technical phone screen round. Bye.